Yo, what's going on, everybody? This your boy Chris Hubbard.
It's your boy AG, and we back again for another episode of Brotherhood Podcast. What it do, brother?
Man, hey, slow motion this way, man. Slow motion.
You know, I can honestly say we healed a little bit last week as brothers and as individuals.
I agree with you, man. We definitely brought out the shows, man. We definitely hit home. We definitely took those bandages off, man, and trying to rip through, man, on them surfaces that was damaged, bro.
Well, hey, man, that's what this is for. This is our safe space.
Exactly.
We got a new person on here this week. We got the founder of Voices Corp, my boss, Wright, coming to the stage. Hey!
Hey, y'all.
How's it going?
It's good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, who is Kia and what is Voices? Because nobody knows it right now.
Kia is a girl that was born in Detroit, moved to
Shout
Indianapolis.
out to D.
Come on. Moved to Indianapolis fairly young and really was grounded by the folks that was around. Plenty of opportunity to wild out, but because I had a really strong village, I didn't. Went to school, got my master's in criminology, and started working in the juvenile probation department in Terre Haute, Indiana. And that's where I really got the first bug of working with system impacted kids, program and design and things like that. Moved back home, was a school-based officer on the east side of Indianapolis in the alternative school. Just really frustrated with the way that the teachers were calling me for every little thing that was happening. They was cussing them out. They need to be violated. They was talking about doing something after school. They need to be violated. At that time, everybody around me was artists. We used to throw these open mic sets, and it would be spoken word and poetry, rap, and singing. And I started bringing that energy into the school that I was working with at the time to kind of get to the root cause of what was going on with the kids. And since then, we've just built programming around what we learned for them and just centered them in the experiences along the way.
What is Voices?
It's hard to explain what we are. We started out, with the arts. So it was that art-based organization using poetry, rap to really find out why these kids was, killing, running in houses and things like that. But what we learned was it was so much underneath that, right? So it wasn't just them carrying a gun or acting a fool in class. It was a lot of depression. It was a lot of mental health. It was a lot of food insecurity. It was a lot of abuse and neglect and addiction that was happening. And what we were seeing play out in the streets and the schools was just a symptom of that, right? And so we just created the programming to kind of get to the root cause of that and expose that.
Can you kind of let people know what are kids going through right now? Why is youth violence kind of spiking? And what do these kids need?
They ain't never had the chicken pox. That's what's wrong with them.
Hey, that's true now.
We joke about it all the time, but it is a different kid, than when I was born in 81, and so I remember my senior year in high school was 1999, and I lost 12 classmates that year, right? And that was just mind blowing for us. It had really popped off like that. These kids see that every single day. A lot of just the access that they get from technology. I couldn't imagine social media being around when I was growing up. I don't think I'd be, in the place that I am right now if they had caught some of them moments on camera. And AG and I talk about when we was growing up, there was older folks that was doing the dirt that made sure we stayed out of it, right? And now it doesn't feel like it's that level of responsibility that we're seeing. So there's no guidance even in the streets. Right. On top of, we have a lot of parents that, never navigated their own trauma. You know what I mean? They never really had tools and access to kind of figure themselves out. And so that's coming out in their parenting. And that's not a knock on them. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have the tools either.
We have a science to this here. Not saying that we do it better than anybody else, but our numbers speak for what we do. Can you tell them the recidivism numbers, the all of that, the whole spiel that I heard you give a million times?
All of our programs and services is rooted in what we call our 4 pillars, right? So it's being healed, disciplined, educated, and creative. And everything that we do is guided by that. And so throughout the years, we've probably provided services to over 1,500 kids so far. Most of them are system impacted. Most of them are young Black men between the ages of 12 and 19. And the one that we're most proud about is 91% of our kids do not reoffend while they're with us. And so that lets us know that we're building the relationships, you know, it's sinking in. We tell, you know, our team all the time, we're planting seeds that we might not see grow. But while they're with us and while we got our hands on them, they're at least making those conscious choices a little bit better.
Hey, you're doing a great, amazing thing, like literally, man. Like the kids nowadays, like we were talking about earlier, man. You know, they see and view things differently from what we did, man. As a kid, I remember, man, going outside was like the number one thing to really do, and just playing in the street. Like I'm talking about, we playing throw them up, bust them up in the street. You know what I'm saying? You hit that sideline, you know for a fact that was kept us out of trouble. You hit that sideline, you know you're gonna get beat up. Or we in the backyard like playing basketball and stuff. Nowadays, you don't really see that stuff going on. But I wanted to bring it to a point, but like how is witnessing like the trauma of bad parenting affect the students who come through your program, and then how can it impact the way they are raised?
You know, it's hard to blame the mama that's not there because she's working 3 jobs. So yeah, the kids don't have supervisions, but they got a house and, you know, they eat and stuff like that. It's a combination. Like when we was growing up, you know, our parents could trust us to go outside. You could tell where everybody was at because the bikes was outside. You know what I mean? It was these interpersonal skills that we developed from having to talk, you know, from y'all shooting your shot with girls, from us turning down guys to making a team. And you think about all these kids is on their technology. They ain't gotta feel the rejection of being told no. They can make up these personas and be who they want to be without being called on it. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, the lack of supervision because of, for whatever reason, the pull of the streets, the effortlessness of technology, I think all of that is working against this newer generation, and why we're seeing a lot of the problems.
How can we help them though? How can we help them to see? Can we like? There's more things than just the phone. There's more things than just social media, and it's more out here that's destined for us. Like, and it's greatness and vision of that. You know, like how can we change that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's repetition, consistency, authenticity. You know, kids can smell bullshit a mile away. Right. And so when you do have that captive audience of a child, you know, we have to make sure we do right by that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's providing. I heard something. I was at this conference. Aaron, you was on that conference. You meet them where they dream and provide the support, resources, and access to achieve their dreams. And so when I heard that, it kind of reframed what we was doing, because we had always said, meet them where they're at, you know, meet them, you know, but what they don't want to be there. They don't want to be stuck in that situation. You know what I'm saying? So what are their dreams? What are their hopes? Let's show them that that's possible, and then provide the support and access and resources to make it possible.
Numbers wise, because I want people to also know the demographic that we serve. Do you have the numbers as far as the kids that come through the program, as far as what their offense is?
Yes, about 54% have a gun charge. And about 46% of that have multiple gun charges. The rest are spread out. It's about 46% is the property charges like burglary, robbery, crimes against people, and things like that. Most of our kids are expelled and suspended from a traditional school system, so they're being kicked out. It happens every year. We have 17 and 18-year-old young men that haven't finished a full school year since about 6th grade. You know what I mean? They get re-enrolled into school. You know, they have their behavior problems like they do every year. Count day happens, they kick back out because the school already got their money for them for the year. And so that repetitive cycle kind of keeps them in that loop of unsupervised time, lack of education, lack of skills, and they just turn into the streets as an alternative. I think AG does a great job of getting to the why are you carrying a gun? Because a lot of folks that's working with these kids be like, put the gun down, put the gun down. Well, you walk down the street without a gun and tell me how safe you feel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You grow up in that family that has a history, you know what I mean, of street life, and tell me how you feel. For a lot, it is survival. And so how do we navigate that space? You know what I'm saying? It's been a challenge.
They by themselves in the streets, man.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's really like, it's them and then it's the streets, bro. The streets take over a lot, man.
You know, kids that got the traditional family unit, like both the mama and daddy's there, they both working, they got some level of education. It's this pull, this fascination, this need to be a part of it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because my whole life I've watched people who had better circumstances than me find their way into the streets. And it was like, how? But it's a magnet, because even with my mind, even when I got to a certain point, my mind still kind of dabbled in like, what if, or what would that look like? Right. Now I didn't never take no action, but some people don't have that type of mental to say, nah, I ain't gonna take no action. It's just a thought. So Kia, this week has been the roughest week, and it's only Wednesday I've had in my career, mental health wise. Stuff has happened with these kids. And how has your career impacted your view on mental health?
I think that's the hardest thing, right? Because you don't go into this work, for the money. You don't go into it. It really is about trying to save these kids. Mm-hmm. And when you lose them, it cuts, and you immediately be like, what could I have done more? Should I have texted more? Should I have called more? Should I have hugged more? Should I have reached out more? Like, you automatically play those things in your head. But I've lost, just with Voices, we've lost 7 in the last 2 years. I lost a couple to suicide, and then others to gun violence. You never get over stuff like that. You never forget that last conversation, and you have to have self-care. You know what I mean? You have to keep a piece of you to you. And it's really hard because we want to be there for these kids, and we want to have them to have access to us whenever they need. But if you don't, you will literally lose your mind. And Asia, you have had a hell of a week. You know what I mean? It's like, where do you put that? Yeah. And still do the work.
Telling you, man, it's a rough field, but I know this is for me. You know what I mean? I know I'm supposed to be here. I know that I'm doing everything that I can to save these kids, and so is what we do here. That's what makes this a special place.
Exactly. Safe space, man. That's what we always talk about.
For sure. I just
want to ask you, bro, for real, like you said, it's been a tough week for you though, man. But how have you taken all those things and digested it, bro?
It's rough, man, and the more I think about it, it just cuts, man, because you literally build a relationship. I felt like I lost a family member, and I'm not gonna go into detail about what was going on, but it's like you lose when something happens, and like it ain't no good outcome that's gonna come of this. You know what I mean? Regardless of the fact, even if somebody makes it out of their situation mentally, this still does something to you. And to think about the potential, and to think about where we were headed. Even being honest about this morning I received a call, and I've talked about my dad being murdered. Yeah. The guy who murdered my dad was murdered last night. Wow. And so coming up, man, you don't really prep for that type of call. You know what I'm saying? So it seemed like, okay, I would feel a relief. I know it sucks to say that, but when you go through as much pain as I did from that, you would think it was a relief, but it wasn't. It brought me right back to where I was. Number one, like it happened yesterday. And then number two, I thought about his family and what his life was like following that, because I know a little bit of it. So it's like mental health is so strong, and you got to do stuff to take care of you. And Kia, Brandon, Trey, everybody stays on me about doing mental, taking time for myself, because I don't do it a lot, and it's hard for us. Yeah. And what are some things that you have done over the years? Because you've been in this game a long time, lost a lot of kids, dealt with every situation that anybody could think about in this work. How do you maintain your mental health?
I got 4 kids, and 3 are young Black men. For me, that's what's kept me grounded, because I get to see the Black boy joy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get that a lot in my work. And I rack my brain, like Trey and I was like, what are we doing? Because we ain't like top-notch parents. You know what I'm saying? It ain't like we just work, go to home, come home and expect, a certain level of excellence from them. But, I think about that in terms of programming, because, I feel like my kids are safe in our home. They feel loved, affirmed, all these things that I want the boys in the program to feel. And so it comes out a lot. And you see how I am with the kids. Like, that's why I hug them as much as I do. That's why I do call them baby and sons and things like that, to kind of model that type of stuff. But I think, my family has definitely kept me grounded. I think there was a period of time I didn't handle it very well, and I was drinking like crazy because it was too much. I felt like I was responsible for it. And when it don't go right, for whatever reason, it's hard to take, not take that on, but it's always going to be a balance. I mean, you can't not be impacted by, losing a child, whether it's yours or not.
I can't even fathom with that, losing a child. And that's just, I don't know. When you think about
being on the other side of it, like we've had to be the one to say your child just got picked up by the federal marshals for a murder.
Yeah.
How early do you think like a child should begin to learn about social justice in America?
When they know. My son is 5, and we talk about it now. He ain't going outside playing with no water guns and none of that. And so when he asks why, it's like, what the hell do you say to him? I'm terrified. Can he play his music loud? Can he wear a hoodie? Can he drive a car? Can he walk in a store? Like all these things that are normal to life, we have to prepare our children for the opposite of that. Like you could die. Black children know from birth that they Black and that it's different just by the way that they're treated. We try to, are trying so hard to change even that bias that comes with early childhood education. You know what I'm saying? I had to push back against my preschool teacher for my son, without putting labels. No, he's a hyper 5-year-old. He's a boy. He likes to climb and throw. We're not going to start with ADHD and ADD and all this at 5. He doesn't even know what his learning style is yet. These teachers say, well, academically, he's excelling. Then why are you calling me?
You are a teacher for a reason. You are able to teach that child different lessons through life. Like teach him. Your name is specific for a reason. Literally. Like I feel like they need to do a better job. I shout out to the teachers that are doing an amazing job. I will not forget y'all, but at the same time, I feel like it needs to be more lessons towards teaching.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that not every kid is going to sit down and learn the same way. And I think that's where we fail in. And I also want to tell people, when kids are arrested outside of school here, they get automatically kicked out of school. So a lot of our kids never got in trouble at school.
Wow.
They got in trouble. Yeah, had nothing to do with school. And they got sent to us because they were expelled for something that they've already been locked up and have to go through their system. So they're paying their time. They doing their time. It's kind of like if you get locked up, you go to jail, right? You do your time. So you get your time back to society or whatever they try to make it. And then you go get a job and they tell you got to do more time.
Not only do they get kicked out for out of school activity, they can now not get work permits. And thank God they just changed this law last month?
Yeah. Yep.
These kids couldn't even get work permits if they were expelled from school. So you kick them out of school and then you tell them they can't work. What the heck you think they about to be out here doing?
Like literally, they about to find a way to survive, man.
They're going to find a way to survive, but who wouldn't? You know what I mean? And then we talk about teens doing this. No, you took away all their resources and access.
Y'all don't really put me on game because, all I know is like the different things that's going on in America. You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes down to like school right now, it's like a whole different thing for me because I don't know what the kids are learning right now. You know what I mean? I got to get ready because, baby boy here, I got to get ready for him. But at the same time, like, I didn't know that.
And one thing, so Kia, you taught me about transferable skills. Can you explain what transferable skills are?
It's taking what you already know and what you're innately good at and applying it to a different setting, right? And so the example that we give with our kids a lot, you out here hustling and selling drugs. That means you got good customer service skills. You have good math and accounting skills. You know about inventory and supply. Like those are business skills. Let's take these street skills, apply them in whatever setting so that you can make some legit real money and not be ending up back on the street.
I like that. I really love that though. Like, cause you know what I mean? You taking what they're really good at, man, and putting it into perspective. You're using that.
So we in social services and where everything is going on in the world right now at this point. Black people versus the police. That's what it seemed like. Every day is something else. What are your thoughts, and can you expand on what defund the police means?
For me, defunding the police means reallocation of resources, not do away with. There needs to be alternative methods to deal with mental health calls, for domestic calls, for traffic stops. You know what I'm saying? We don't need folks with, military gear showing up when someone's in a mental health crisis or pulling me over because my tail lights on, right? Like, why?
Yeah.
My tail lights out. Why you got full riot gear on? Why you got a gun? Just write my ticket and keep it moving. You know what I mean? And we see that in so many of these civilian type situations where it's not a protection or safety thing, folks are dying.
Yeah.
Like black folks, let me not say folks, because police know how to handle other people. They just don't know how to handle us.
Facts.
So we are dying at traffic stops. We are dying, for mundane things that did not need law enforcement intervention. Don't send, a full police officer when I call you because my son is in a mental health crisis. You know what I mean? They're not trained to handle those type of things. And we have tons of professionals that are trained in de-escalation for mental health and these other things that I think could accompany police departments to better serve the community.
That touch home. Like, seriously.
I think that it needs to be a community model, because you can't have nobody just showing up, right?
Yeah.
So how do we, I want to get to the point where our communities are not reliant on these systems any longer. If we think about our ancestors, we were our own healers, doctors, teachers, and everything else, right? We have that in our made up in our DNA. How do we get back to a spot where we are not so reliant on systems, right? Until we get there, the systems that are governing us and keeping us safe and educated, we got to be involved in. We can't keep just letting these folks make these policies and decisions without us at the table. That equity, that power, that inclusion, we got to be there, and we got to prepare the next generation to kind of advocate for themselves and be able to kind of step back and start doing this self-governing thing. But there's tons of community models that are out there that show how mental health facilities work with law enforcement, how community organizations work with law enforcement, and have these mobile crisis teams that are specifically trained in these specific areas. So you got that cultural relevancy, you got that trust from the community. You can't just have, whoever, somebody from Carmel showing up in Hallville, you know what I mean, to respond to a mental health crisis. It has to be rooted in community.
Just like the police work, man. That gotta be their beat, you know what I mean? That block.
Yeah.
It's gotta be the person that's been involved around that neighborhood that really understands the people that's around there and the surrounding places. So that's important. That's really
important. I want to see Lil Ray. They used to run around and do bad shit. Like, I'm right there. Like, oh, that's Lil Ray. He the police now. Look at here, Lil Ugly. He's still Lil Ugly. That's Lil Ray.
But there's a model. I can't think of the city in Chicago. I want to say it's Bronzeville. They literally did like this $50 million investment into like community redevelopment, right? And one of the examples that they gave was like back in, my parents' generation, where you had the big mama of the neighborhood that literally raised all the kids. You know what I'm saying? You got the uncle, the janitor at the school that knew everybody from every family, growing up, or whatever at that school. And using those type of community, the barbershop, those type of community figures to be like staples and hubs for mental health in communities. The trust is there, it's already established. How do we train those pillars of our community, pastors, to be able to have these skills and to mobilize when needed? I think that's the model that we need to get back to.
Right. Yeah. I do remember that big mama of the neighborhood though. Like Big Mama had them blow pops and
full whooping rights.
I'm about to say, she'll put them paws on your ass too now.
Like Big Mama down the street, she got me today. Like, you can do something terribly wrong. She gonna catch you now.
Yeah.
But you could go there to get a plate. That if you need to get home, you could go there. If you needed some clothes, you could go there, and you didn't have to worry about who was in her house. Are my kids safe? You know what I mean? If she caught you doing something wrong, your ass is gonna get towed up. You know what I mean? So it was like this different mentality and village feel that I feel like, but that comes with trust.
All right, Kia, I got this $1 million question. In 3 words, how do you think society views Black children?
How does society view Black children in 3 words? I think I just need one, and it kind of sums up why we see the fear, and it's sovereign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's this innate fear because they know the excellence, the greatness, the royalty, the sovereignty, where we come from when we don't know.
And I'm glad you said that. So I'll go back into something that I always say too. Children and people who are uneducated about where we come from, our history did not start on a boat. I don't give a damn where your social studies teacher starts his lesson. There's a lot more to it. You just got to kind of dig.
Back to the creation of man, if you want to know who we are.
Yeah. That's real.
Nah,
that's it right there.
Some people really not gonna get that. It's just gonna fly over their head. But man, they really take a part and listen to it. Like,
and I don't got the time to even educate you. So Google is free. Go ahead and just keep asking questions. They'll tell you a little bit more than I can. Okay, this was dope.
This is awesome, man. Hey, man, look, I just want to say thank you, Miss Kia. We appreciate you. We're humbled to have you on our show. We thank you for the knowledge that you have dropped, and hopefully a lot of people can really understand and hopefully know who you are, who Kia is, who Voices is, and like pay attention to what's going on that way.
Tell the people where we can find you. Yeah, y'all can reach out to Big Struggle, but where can they reach out and find more information about Voices, the things we're doing, and figure out how to get in contact with Kia?
So all social media handles are Voices Corp, and our website is voicescorp.org. I don't know if you guys understand the impact yet, just from getting on here and talking, but we know how difficult it is to have Black men in this space and being vulnerable. So I applaud and appreciate the work that you guys are doing because it's definitely needed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to both.
Keep it going.
Hey, keep it going, man. We got more to come, bro. Like literally.
It's Brotherhood the Unveiling.